Hey everyone, Dr. Kuniak with a weekly video lecture. I made some notes on questions that I've been getting or thoughts that have come up for me, and so I wanted to try to address those. So, FYI, if I'm going to do my very best not to get into a coughing fit here. I have some sort of a cold or sinus infection or something that I'm getting over, and every time I try to I'm fine most of the time, and then every time I try to do some talking, that happens. So let's try to avoid that. So I had a bunch of questions about page limits and the number of prompts for the most recent assignment that came in for the article critique, and so that led me down a series of thoughts that I thought were important. So I recognize that there may be a flaw in this particular assignment. And so I'm going to kind of go back to the drawing board and talk to my colleague who manages the class with me and, get a feel for if there are enough pages for the prompts or if there is not enough space in the page limits for the number of prompts. But it led me into a thought that fits with research, and that is that whenever you submit anything professional, there's going to be a page limit that is set for the journal or for the proposal, because that's the other thing I want to, like, many of you may be saying to yourself, well, when I get done with this, I'm never going to do scholarly research. I'm not interested in it. It's not a part of what I want to do as a practice. But the thing is professional writing shows up all over the place in our field in ways that you may not anticipate. For example, aside from all of the typical clinical documents like notes and treatment plans and narrative assessments and things of that sort, let's say you want to open your own practice. Well, you need to, if you know, you may be able to just rent a space somewhere and, file the paperwork and get yourself set up. But let's say you have big dreams and you want to try to, down the road decide to open your own agency or specialize in a particular area, and you see that there's grant funding, $100,000 in grant funding to open this practice. All of your counties have funding for mental health services, but you have to write a grant proposal. Or an RFP, a request for proposals for various funding that the state and local county, the county level, the city level, the state level, and the federal level funding all require RFPs to be submitted for you to potentially get their funds. Those have page limits. So if your document is over the page limits allowed, even if it's a brilliant document, they will reject it. And I'm that's not funny, because people have lost lost quite a bit of funding and lost quite a bit of access to services because they just couldn't figure out how to cut down the amount of writing that was in there. So I was remembering back to some of my own writing classes, because I had to take a series of writing classes for my PhD. And I recognize that's neither here nor there for you, but there were some lessons that were passed on to me during those writing classes. And one of them was there were a set of assignments in the professional writing class that I took in my first semester in the doc program, where the professor would assign us a topic, or would assign us to pick from a range of topics or something like that. And the first assignment was to write a 10-page paper on whatever that topic was, due next week. So we had 7 days to write a 10-page paper. The next week, when we turned in that paper, there was another assignment, and we were not told these assignments ahead of time, just as an aside. Like, there were notations on the syllabus for assignments, but there were not notations for how long the assignment was to be or what, so we couldn't work ahead, is my point. So the next week we would turn in that assignment, and we were given our following assignment, which was same topic, now less pages. So whatever that was, instead of 10 pages now, write a topic related to this and include something related to treatment, but make it 5 pages. and that was due the following week. In between there, our professor graded the first paper, and then on the third week, we were given that paper back, the original one, with our grade on it. We submitted our new assignment, and our next assignment was take the original paper and rewrite it, now make it a 20-page paper, take the idea from our second week's paper and expand that to, or whatever. I can't remember exactly how it looked, but every week we were taking the previous week's assignment, expanding or reducing it, a new topic area, setting that up, and then turning in a previous week's assignment that would be given back to us the next week, and we were told to expand or contract that. The goal of all of those assignments, we did that all semester long, so that was, it wasn't like our 8-week, or not 8-week classes, our 16-week classes. I take that back. It would have been roughly 16 weeks worth of that material. For some reason, I don't know why I was thinking of midterms. Anyway, so it was 12-ish, 13 weeks worth of take this, write the next thing, do the next thing, reduce, expand, turn this into a single PowerPoint slide, expand this to the side, to a magazine publication. And the reality is that is stuff that I actually do a lot. I take one presentation, like I have I'm essentially touring around a research idea for a year or more, and then I'm being asked in many cases by this publication, that publication, or whatever the case may be, to submit, resubmit, okay, this idea that you had that was 20 pages, can you narrow that down to a 1-page summary for me? This thing, I want to do an hour-long interview with you for that. And I just got a call yesterday about, we want to do your colleague and we want you to do a full-day training. So that would be 8 hours, a full-day training on X topic. And then they emailed back today and said, so instead of 8 hours, can we do 4? So stuff like that happens all the time, and you have to respond back with whether or not you think you can do that. But anyway, my point being, if there is a page limit or a time limit or a whatever the limit is, sometimes it's not at all fair. Now, I'm not, in our classes we need to be fair, so I am going to go back and take a look at that. But in our field, it may not be fair. And so you have to figure out, what am I going to cut? I had a colleague who taught at a different institution, and students would ask, like, can I have an additional page or an additional set of pages to finish up the assignment? And he would say, you can have as many pages as you want. I just need you to know that I'm going to stop reading at 8. That's what the assignment calls for. So when I hit the 8th page, that is where I end. And if you don't have everything in there that the assignment needs, then it's graded as incomplete. I obviously don't do that, but it's just, I think it's actually a good example of what you run into in the real world with both clinical and academic and professional practitioner scholar related topic areas. So with that course, our professor used to tell us that we needed to not be married to our work, that it wasn't about how good our writing was the first time round or the second time round. It was about whether or not we conveyed the information in a way that was understandable and within the limits that were put on us. We couldn't be married to it. And that actually helped with getting the paper back and getting all of the red marks all over it. You didn't need to write this. This wasn't helpful. This could have been reduced. This needs expanded upon. It's not about it. My ego is not attached to it in the same way as it used to be. It's more about, did I convey the message in the way that I needed to within the parameters that I needed to? So that was one learning experience that I had with this. I'm going to keep on the train of writing real quick before I jump into the idea of proof, because I saw some folks, actually quite a few folks, critique the article and say something about so-and-so proved, and I think that there's an important discussion to have about that. I had a professor who used to say that there's no such thing as a good writer, that there are only good editors. And the longer that I've been doing this, the more I really buy into what he said. I used to think that, not that he was wrong, but I used to think that no, there probably are good writers, and I also understand the importance of good editors. But the more I do this, I really do buy into what he said, and I probably should have listened to him better the first time around because he's been published all over the place. His name's Dr. Rick Meyer. If anyone's interested in crisis and trauma work, he's very heavily published in that area. Does not teach in Pennsylvania anymore. He teaches somewhere out west at this point. But I picked my crisis and trauma textbook for the course that I teach in this program. I actually saw his name smattered all through it, and I thought that's kind of fun. I know that guy. Anyway, he said no such thing as good writers, just good editors. I buy that. So it's actually changed the way that I write everything. I don't worry about my first draft much at all. I just try to convey the ideas that I need to. I essentially create my outline. I decide what I need to get across, and I write that, as sloppily as I need to. And then I just edit from there. It's almost like, if I can paint a picture for you and then use a different art style, if I'm trying to make like clay pots or something like that, my first draft is just getting all of the clay onto the wheel. Everything else that comes after that is shaping and moving and removing pieces or adjusting pieces or adding stuff. But the first draft or two is just getting content down, and then I go from there. And I believe that I have become a much better editor than I could have hoped to have been a writer. And I still need a lot of work, but I do believe that I'm becoming a better editor every time I write something. So that's, I think that was helpful feedback to me too. The last piece of advice for folks who have emailed me or struggled with or considered emailing me or were struggling with in silence, that you never figure out if you're done or not. You're always looking for the next article. You're not sure if this article is good enough or if this piece of the assignment is good enough. My dissertation chair, who I was also just talking to earlier today, because he's going to be the one that I'm doing this previously 8-hour, now 4-hour presentation with sometime in the coming fall. He had shared with me that the chief status of any assignment is to be done. The goal of the assignment is to have it be done. So if you are struggling with wanting this to be your mark on the field, don't. It's one assignment. Meet the criteria needed for the assignment. You can always write, what's the old expression, the great American novel the next time. I think it's different with small assignments in our master's program. When I was writing my dissertation, I was hoping to make it my mark on the field. And it was very initially distressing, but then extremely helpful to kind of take that pressure off of myself, that it was a first step, but did not have to be some sort of seminal work. But I know people struggle with deciding whether or not they have done enough or completed enough of the assignments that we do in our program and even in this class. And so I think it's helpful. It has been helpful to me. So I'm sharing with you that this idea of the goal is to be done. The assignment doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. It has to be done well, and it has to be done within criteria, but it has to be done. So hopefully those things are helpful. Those ideas are helpful. I want to talk really briefly about a concept about proof. So I didn't mark anyone wrong who said proof or proven or this was proved or this was not proved, but I did make notes, and so I wanted to say that to the whole class, if you are considering suggesting that something has been proven, try not to do that. Instead, try to use words like blah blah blah, these results supported the conclusion or provided evidence of, or if you know the information, you can say it was positively or negatively correlated with these, between these variables, bolstered this notion, provided clarity around. There's lots of terms that you can use to explain what what the article has accomplished, but it would be just about impossible to suggest that something was proven just by a single article, just by a single publication. The other thing is, I had a professor in my undergrad studies who, I don't know if he ever finished it, but he was writing a paper that he called "Proof is a Four-Letter Word." If you're familiar with the concept, or if you're not familiar with the concept, four-letter words are swear words. They're curse words. Think about all the four-letter words that are, or all of the swear words that are out there. Many of them are four letters, and so four-letter words are considered bad words. So "proof is a four-letter word" was his paper that he was working on. PROOF is 5 letters, but it is a 4-letter word because it's a bad word in our field. For something to be proven, we have to kind of remove all shadow of doubt that there is a possibility that this result may show up differently within the population. Like, it has to be that the rule is that it's going to be this way, that if this symptom was to arise, it was going to look like this. Or, these criteria would be the ones that we're looking at. It's going to be this 99% of the time, even. And so to be proven, though, it would really have to be approaching 100% of the time. 99% is okay. But to really be proven, there can't be any sort of shadow of doubt that it might not be the case. So a single article is not going to do that. And particularly an article that only has 7 or 8 participants, like in qualitative studies. Qualitative studies are more geared towards helping us to learn what questions to ask. They're much more exploratory in their nature. They have a great purpose. It'd be very difficult to prove something with just that many participants, because you've still got millions and millions and millions of people who have not been surveyed. So we can, find strong evidence to support this idea in our study, but proof is a difficult word to use. And so I would challenge folks to try to find out ways to, as much as possible, remove it from your vocabulary when talking about mental health, social services level research. If you're looking at medical research, biomedical research, chemical research, stuff like that, you're dealing with much more concrete concepts. It's a little bit easier in the end to claim that something is proven, because you're testing it on living subjects in a concrete way. Our stuff is much more amorphous, and so as a result, we have to be cautious in saying that something was proven or not. So I think I have talked enough for this mini lecture. Hopefully these concepts are helpful. I don't want anybody to, I'm not trying to make anyone feel anxious. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in particular. I'm actually just trying to reduce anxiety, to take away this idea that, it has to be perfect. It has to say everything that I need it to say in such a way. It's more about getting the point across within the restrictions that are being set down. I used to say that precision is more important than quantity. So I haven't said that in a while, but I used to say that to my students at one time, and I think that's probably true. I used to teach a college level writing course. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful. Certainly email me with any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, and I will look forward to seeing you all online in the coming weeks.